Okay, so it's Friday, 10 p.m. 22, as you can see, for all those in Europe, 22 hours 22, which makes a lot more sense than AM PM, but that doesn't matter. But this just shows that it's very late in the day, and I think we can enjoy things in a little bit of a different way by making this video free flow, which actually means that the plan for today's video is not the initial one anymore, because what I wanted to do for the Nokia 7 Plus coverage is to make a preview, a review. I've done that. Then I wanted to do a detailed comparison with the Xiaomi Mi Note 3. I also wanted to do a comparison between the Pixel app, the port for the camera, and the stock camera app. I won't do that, at least not the way I wanted to do, because what I've seen in the comments is that I get the same questions over and over again, and I just can't answer them every time, so I decided to do this today. Most frequently asked questions where I will just cover everything, most questions that came up all the time, with a few like recommendations, with alternatives for other phones, if this phone is still good for what it is, who is it maybe best for, and the rest with the Mi Note and such will come along with the Pixel app, but later on. So let's just get into that, because I don't want to make the intro any longer than I have to. So let's get into the first question that came up pretty much most often. Does it have a notification LED? No, it does not. What it does have is glance screen, or in this case actually it's called ambient screen, where you can see the clock. Now, this is a solution that is good enough for me, but not for many, because they said they need to see the notifications from a longer distance if they don't have the phone up, and they think this is stupid if you have to lift the phone and always on display or something would have been nice. It's just not the case. So maybe that's a deal breaker or not. The next thing that came up is if it does have an FM radio, and yes it does, even though it doesn't come with an FM radio app, so just get one from the store and you are covered. I tried it, it works. The next thing, is the weak speaker a deal breaker? Now, I would say not necessarily, unless you want a really good one, because when I've used it over the first few days, I actually didn't mind it so much, because it was mostly loud enough and it sounded okay. Only when I was in my studio and actually compared with other speakers, and then I just wanted to evaluate its own quality a little bit more in depth, then I noticed it's just not great, but it should do the job. The next thing, what about the headphone jack? And all I can say is, yep, the headphone jack is okay, but not more. It's a 3.5 star headphone jack, because it's not particularly loud, doesn't have the best quality, but it's absolutely fine, and for most in-ears it will be fine for most people, but no equalizing options or that out of the box, which just doesn't allow for a higher rating. But I've heard people, and I know these must be fanboys that just think different, but they say it's the very best one. I've had more than 200 phones here, and this is nothing special, but it gets the job done, totally average. Now the next thing, is it what many hoped it would be? So pretty much the best bang for buck mid-range phone, already closer to a flagship. And I would say not quite, because there are a few issues. Some came up from the comments and some are that came up from my side. So what are these? And I just want to keep it really compact, which this phone is actually not, because it's very tall. That's a minor thing, but I have to say, despite that, and people maybe don't like the design all that much from what I've seen in the comments, I have to say the build quality is great, and after using it just for a while, you won't really notice that it's that tall or something like that, because it feels very high quality. For me, that's actually not a bad thing. The next thing though that is a bad thing for many and is a deal breaker, especially for the people who had a Nokia 6 2017, no dual speaker. And the speaker, as I said, already isn't the best one, but they wanted to have this, and that for some actually would have made this phone perfect. The next thing, slight performance issues. I've talked about that. It just isn't very snappy when it comes to transitions, when it comes to the multitasking. You see the stuttering animation. It's not bad, and it works out, and you will get mostly fine. But if you are really a heavy multitasker and jump through a lot of apps, you will get into a few minor issues. But yeah, then the camera potential is not fully used with the own app, and there is no notification LED. So these are the cons, along with a little bit more temperature, but I have to say that it's now in the summer and every phone gets quite hot, so it's not something super terrible. But what this phone has on its good side is the performance should improve. I'm pretty sure Android 1 updates will come and will get better. Same as for the camera. And if that won't improve anytime soon, you can still just use the Pixel app. It's easy, and I will show you later on how to actually get it. One big thing though, Android 1 support, 3 years of security updates or patches and 2 years of updates, solid overall qualities with great battery life, and I can say as much. Totally recommendable at around 350 euros and less, especially for someone who wants a kind of Nexus-like experience with Android One, great battery life, overall something just solid. Now the next thing, and that came up quite often, is what are the best alternatives? And I will just use my cheat sheet just so I don't forget anything. Nokia 8. I forgot that in my review, but that was actually the most often asked one, and I will go into a little bit more into detail in a few seconds. Then the LG G6, the Xiaomi Mi Note 3, the Xiaomi Mi Mix 2, and the Samsung Galaxy A8. Now let's separate them a little bit more. The Nokia 8 actually in many regions is cheaper than this one because it's longer on the market and this just hasn't fallen. So I would say in a month or so this should be very close. But we have to get into that, and we will. Then the LG G6, actually most often it should be also cheaper. The Mi Note is cheaper as well. The Mi Mix, depending on where you get it also. And then the Samsung Galaxy 8, which is around 340 euros. So let's check what is on the Pro side for the Nokia 8 compared to the Nokia 7 Plus. And I will just read off, not to make it any longer than I have to. For the Nokia 8, there is the smaller size with 16:9 for people who still don't like 2:1. The better display, the better performance. So these are the main aspects. I'm not going into everything of some smaller difference. These are the main things why you go for the Nokia 8 or why you should go. Now for the Nokia 7 Plus, the bigger size with 2:1 for everyone who wants that. A little bit more of a more rugged design, but yeah, the Nokia 8 was very solid as well. Even better battery life, Android One, and I would actually say that the overall camera experience is better here. Now, the next thing, LG G6 versus Nokia 7 Plus. And in that case, for the Nokia 6 goes the display, the headphone jack, the performance, and the camera out of the box, which after all is just still better. For the Nokia 7 Plus, once again, bigger size, even better battery life. No, sorry, I mixed it up. Better battery life, Android One, the camera with the pixel cam, and a noticeably better selfie cam. Now, Xiaomi Mi Note 3. Let's get to that also real quick. Mi Note 3, 16:9 with a smaller form factor. I think a better in-hand feel, just because it's more compact, but that's just me. A noticeably better dual speaker, a noticeably better headphone jack, and even though they have the same chip, and also better performance. Now, what goes in favor for the Nokia 7 Plus? Well, 2:1 for everyone who thinks that is important. A more rugged design because not a glass back, SD card, and Android One along with Band 20, which could be a deal breaker for many actually, if I'm gonna be honest. The last one, Samsung Galaxy A8 versus the Nokia 7 Plus, and here once again, Samsung for the compact size, the better display, and the headphone jack. For the Nokia, once again, goes a more rugged design, Android One, better battery life, and the better camera. No, that's it. The next thing, can I get something similar but cheaper without making too many sacrifices or compromises? And I would say in this case, if importing is okay, and if you wait for the Band 20 version, unless that's already available, go for the Xiaomi Redmi Note 5 or Xiaomi Redmi 5 Plus. Because both of those are kind of very similar size, kind of similar battery life, the displays are very, very similar, speaker is a little bit better actually on the Xiaomi, performance is also very close, at least a little bit more consistent without the lag here, or the stutters, but it's not quite as smooth or fast. And then the camera isn't quite on the same level. Software is also a different thing, but those would be noticeably cheaper alternatives. And there are a lot more, but those are just the ones that came up to my head. And then, is the Pixel Cam port a better choice compared to the stock app? And I'm just gonna say this much. Yes and no. Yes for pics, especially selfies, portrait and bokeh. No for video, because that one did not really change and I'm not actually gonna show this. So let's check real quick the comparison. The first picture is always the stock cam, as you can see here. The second picture is always the pixel cam. So let's just go through them and you will see quickly the difference. What in general happens is on the stock cam is that it's usually brighter, but you get a little bit more sharpness, overall more details on the pixel cam. And this is noticeable here, for example. Just check this here. This just gets more conscious and it just feels better. And if you would check the background details a little bit more in details on a proper screen, you will notice that the pixel cam just always delivers more details. It's a little bit sharper, the autofocus was even more so reliable. And colors, as you can see here, aren't really more muted. It's just that the actual cam, the stock cam, makes things a little bit nicer, but definitely more accurate is what the Google cam does. This is the most extreme difference, but I left both cameras the way they are, with HDR Auto on the stock camera app and HDR Plus on the stock camera, on the Pixel camera app, because that out of the box worked already really good for me. And for example, here you can see just there are differences. The stock cam, nice and sharp with nice details, but it just gets more detailed than everything else. And I gave it the main camera 4.5 stars on the Nokia 7 Plus. With the Pixel camera, I'm actually very close to giving it maybe even 5 stars, because I think that the actual qualities are better, but also the features, because the bokeh mode works, which doesn't really work on the stock camera app. Selfies are way better, also easily 0.5 star more. But like I said, video does not get better. As you can see here, let's quickly go through these. This is the Pixel app, and no, that's not true, because it definitely looks more like this in this case, not like this. So I'm not gonna say that the Pixel cam is always better, but in most in most situations it is. But I think the difference is quite obvious. Contrast is just nicer details. So let's quickly go through that. You can check that in detail if you maybe slow down the video. But as you see, I think the difference is there. And I know this is not the best presentation, but I think a direct comparison, especially here, just look at the stone. If we quickly zoom in, nice details. Yeah, everything is nice. But this, I think, just offers more. And in general, it just looks nicer. Let's quickly go through. Now, let's check the selfies. So these are all from the Pixel cam, just Pixel cam right now. And nice. I did not expect those to look that good, especially with the bokeh mode. As you can see here, it works really good, which does not work on the stock camera app. It's not perfect because you see some kind of halo here going around my head, but this is absolutely fine. Therefore, that the camera is not specifically made for this phone. Now here's the difference. Stock camera app, Pixel app. Do you see this difference? This is the stock cam. And no, I did not shake or anything. I did not try to make it looking less on purpose. This is just what it turns out. Here once again, not really sharp and way better. Here once again, way better. So I think I can cut this off. You see what's gonna happen. Also low light improved. Pictures get generally a little bit darker, but more detailed. And that's just where I'm gonna leave it. If you wanna know how to install it, it's super easy. Just check the link in the description. Go to the XDA site, download the APK, allow unknown sources if you want to install the APK, and then just use the app. You can maybe change the resolution, and there are extra options like, for example, HDR Plus Enhance or something like that. But I would say just generally for selfies or pictures in general, bokeh mode and everything. There's a portrait mode, bokeh mode, everything. Use those. Use the Pixel app. For video, definitely go for the stock cam, because it has also audio, which has front, back, and surround options for the sound, but the sound is so much louder, richer, and more high quality compared to, I'm not quite sure why, but the video, which is pretty much the same. I didn't really see a difference, because stabilization and everything, even though it's allowed in the app, did not seem to have an impact on the quality. The video quality seemed exactly the same, but the audio quality was a lot better on the stock camera app. Maybe it doesn't have quite the same functionality with the other Pixel app. But after about 30 minutes, I hope I covered all the questions that were left unanswered for those people who had them, so I don't have to answer them, even though I did already quite often. Not all the time now anymore. If there's anything else, just let me let down a bit. But my end verdict for this phone, after having already made the review, is that it's a nice phone. For 400, I am a little bit hesitant, because so many people point this out. There are old year or last year's flagships out there which are actually cheaper. Something like an HTC U Ultra is cheaper, even that. And most people have been asking for the Nokia 8. And I'm just gonna say the Nokia 8, after all, is a flagship, even though it's a year or half a year older. But it's still the current flagship besides this Nokia 8 Sirocco. But the build quality was just better, the in-hand feel was better, the display was better, speaker was better, performance was better, battery life not okay, yeah, and the camera was a little bit shaky. But I've seen also the comments for people who said it's a no-brainer. Why this? All qualities are good, the speaker maybe isn't all that important, but they get a ton of updates for a long time, which is important, and nothing else really breaks down. The camera is solid with the Pixel and so much. And things that aren't perfect can be fixed. Like I said, performance will be fixed quite soon. The camera in some way is fixed, but it's not quite what we wanted it to be, because we would have wanted it to be all what it can be, a little bit modified already out of the box. Like the performance that struggles a little bit compared to something like the Xiaomi Mi Note 3. or the camera to be already as good as it can be, what the Pixel Cam shows, the speaker to be a dual speaker and such, so it's not quite that. But an easy recommendation after all, especially if those qualities, which are good, are the ones that you need. So it always comes down to priorities. Yep, until next time.